everybody. This is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is day 12 of Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches, Series 7. Today's sketch is by Liz Chidester, and it has lots and lots of banners. Whenever I think of banners, I think of festivity, and I thought, what could be more festive than Christmas? I was deciding which papers to use, and these older, well, I would say rather old, Kain Company papers from a collection called Winter Wonderland caught my eye, and I thought they would be the perfect match for the sketch. I was really drawn to that blue piece of background paper. In the end, I don't end up using it, although I really like it when I'm looking at it here right now. In person, I still thought it was very beautiful, but I just felt that it was just too confusing for the eye to have all those pattern papers in the banners and then have a pattern paper background too. So I do end up switching it out in the end for a piece of white cardstock. There's a little piece of a circle under the photo. That was just something that was in the collection envelope that I have. I must have used it in another layout, or I must have used the rest of the circle in another layout. So I thought that that would be a nice addition under the photo. And I'm making the banners similar to the way they are in the sketch, different widths, different lengths. I really wanted to use that dark green color, but I only had little scraps left over, so I end up mounting those scraps to a longer piece of paper, and then that helps me to be able to move that banner around. You can see that I'm cutting, first I'm folding the end of the paper in half so I know where the middle is. Then I'm cutting a little slit down the center, and then I'm cutting up from either side, and that creates a fishtail. And then you can see that I'm folding the banner over on itself, and I'm using the cutout as a template to cut out the other side so that they'll match. This is where I'm deciding that I am not going to be using that pattern paper in the background. I did want to mount all of the banners on this sheet of gold paper. So I'm just going in and I'm just leaving a very small border around each banner. And I just thought that would add to the festivity and bring in some gold. The piece of gold paper is from my stash. I'm sorry, I don't know the manufacturer. It was just a loose piece of paper. I do like this color gold. I think it goes well with the pattern papers. The photo for this layout is a selfie that my older daughter took one Christmas Eve. My older daughter's in the foreground, and my younger daughter and I are in the background. And I know you're supposed to put photos of yourself into scrapbooks for your children, so I wanted to make sure that I scrapbooked this one. I do spend a considerable amount of time arranging all of these banners, and I am, you can see, trying to get a balance on the colors. That dark green really can't be on either end. It kind of has to be in the middle, but I'm trying it on the end right now. Then I'm taking a small break from all the banners and I'm cutting out a little border. I just used one of my paper punches, the border paper punches, and that same gold paper. Now I'm realizing that I probably won't have enough of the gold paper to mount all of the banners. So I'm just mounting the pieces that are on either end that are going to show, and I'm trying not to waste paper that isn't going to be visible anyway. You can see it's these green banners that I mount on some white paper. It just makes it easier to move them around. I certainly could have used a ruler and lined them up, but because there are so many moving parts that have the banners and those two pieces in the foreground and the border strips, so I felt that would just be one thing that I could use as one unit. And here I am again. You see I'm just being a little stingy with that paper. I only have one sheet of it, and I don't have anything else that would match in with it. So now I have all the banners. I am going to now round the edges of this piece of pattern paper just the way it is in the sketch. And now I'm finally mounting everything together. I just love the patterns. That blue paper that is on the bottom of the two papers, the one I'm holding there, it's just so beautiful. Now this, I will tell you, this process was not fun for me. I attach everything to the two pieces of pattern paper, the two horizontal pieces of pattern paper, and then once I have everything all mounted together, I attach it down to a piece of white cardstock, and it must have been crooked, and I cut that part out because it was not a very fun part to watch. I had to rip everything apart because the pieces that were mounted to the white paper, they would not come off. The paper in the background ripped, but it's just a piece of white paper. So in the end, I do get everything mounted together. And then once I get everything mounted together, I do end up mounting it to the piece of white cardstock. But for your viewing enjoyment, I cut out that part where I was absolutely struggling with getting everything straight and ripping the paper and some unpleasantries. Another thing that I want to tell you, and it's not something that I have footage of, is I ended up trimming the banners in the background. It just bothered me for days. I didn't like it that the banners touched the green striped border, that little border piece that I put on the top and the bottom. And I kept saying, it's fine, move on, the layout is done. But in the end, I just couldn't. So I went back in, and I was afraid it was going to be really hard to do, and I was kind of afraid I was going to mess it up, but it ended up not being too hard. I just took off the enamel dots, which I'm going to put on in a little while, and then I cut down the pattern piece of paper, and then I cut down the gold piece of paper. And I liked it so much better when the banners weren't extended so far into the border. So that was something else that I did off camera. I do all the main pieces I do on camera, but I have a habit of going back to my layouts 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, sometimes more later, and that's when things really tend to jump out at me. I always tell my daughters when they're writing something for school, like, make sure that you don't submit it on the day that you write it, because on the day that you write it, everything looks all fine and good, and then the next day or an hour later or 2 hours later, if you go back to it, all the errors are going to jump out at you. And I feel like that's the same thing that happens with scrapbooking. When I take a little break and I go back and look at it, all of the things that aren't balanced, all of the things that I feel like are just not good regarding the composition, I feel like those things become more obvious, and then I go back and fix them. Unfortunately, sometimes that's after I've already finished making the video. So you could see I added some enamel dots, and then I added some photo corners, and I do add photo corners all the time. It's one of my favorite things. It's just a finishing touch that I've gotten kind of addicted to. My eye just looks at a layout that doesn't have them, my layouts, and makes me feel that I have to add some photo corners. I don't feel that way when I look at others' layouts, but for me, that just is something that I feel like I compelled to do. But now the fun part, I'm taking out some embellishments that are in my little Christmas stash. I'm going through the embellishments that I have, the ephemera pieces and the die cuts, and I'm trying to pull out embellishments that have a classic Christmas look to them. I pulled out those red flourishes that are on transparencies. I found those 2 cardinals and that little classic Santa that's in the lower right-hand corner. I have some Jolie's Boutique gold stars, and that must be a Heidi Swapp title. It certainly looks like her handwriting, the one that says cheer. I thought that was a perfect size for the layout. And I am adding some little numbers that say 24 since it was Christmas Eve, and trying to find places for those little gold stars that are on transparencies around the layout. the cards that are next to the photo on either side, a lot of those are Prima cards with some gold foiling. So I thought those would go well with the gold touches in the layout. So I'm going around and I'm adding and arranging a bunch of different embellishments. One thing that I want to mention is the title ends up getting changed a little bit. I like the size and I liked the sentiment, but I thought there was too much red on the layout. So I go in and I put a piece of masking tape over the top of the title, and then I repaint the bottom in 2 different colors of green. And I thought that way the layout looked a little bit more balanced color-wise. You can see here I'm attaching down a bunch of these little transparency pieces. I love those little starbursts. There's one next to the title and one also next to the photo. And I'm adding a banner that says "A Season to Remember" under the photo. I also add some enamel dots on the photo corners. I put 2 gold across from each other and then a green and a red across from each other. And here, this is where I have not done a very good job filming, changing the title, but that's what I did here. You could see it kind of close. You could see that I just stippled 2 different colors of green together, and that completes the layout. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please check out all the other scrapbookers that are participating in this hop. It's so much fun to see everybody's take on the same sketch. I hope if you like this video, you'll give it a thumbs up. And I hope you will come back tomorrow and join me for day 13 of 30 Days of Sketches. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.